This week, we are very thrilled to have John Andres with ProVisual here with us today to tell us a little bit about his background, how he's got into construction tech, and some really good nuggets of information about, turning busy work into value, which is the topic of today. So, without further ado, let's dive into it. So first of all, John, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? How'd you get into construction? And yeah, what's going on in your world?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Aaron. John Andrus. I worked for my family's construction company called Andrus Construction for the past 10 years. They do a lot of heads and beds construction, is what they say. So anything that you sleep in at night, you know, multifamily, hospitality, senior living. And I started there when I was 18 as an intern and worked my way up from the field. Had a very fun time on a Friday afternoon, one afternoon, and was working. I was the last person out with one operator who was digging trenches in the middle of a hotel lobby that we were remodeling,
Okay.
and we hit the sanitary sewer line at 7 feet
Oh,
instead of 14 feet.
oh no.
And I was the only person who wasn't in the equipment, so I had to go and find you know basically some PVC to go and bridge the gap. And I was home late that night and went to my dad and said, "Hey, I would like to be in the office. I think I've learned everything I need to learn from the physical field side." And
Hmm.
so I moved into the trailer after that. I hung up my hammer.
Okay.
Um, so
That'll
I,
do it. Sanitary sewer.
So I literally started in the trenches
Yeah.
and worked my way up. We were very early on users of Procore, early structure site users that went to drone deploy.
Hmm.
So lots of different systems over the years that I used and implemented across our company. And then now decided to go off of my own and start up ProVisual, which is an inspection management platform that links into city inspection portals, as well as systems like Procore
Hmm.
to manage your quality control and inspections visually on the 2D drawings.
Okay.
Yeah,
Excellent. Before we kind of move into the topic, I do want to let our audience know we do want to hear from you. We can see your comments, so please do use that comment or the chat box. Let us know if you have any questions or any thoughts as we're going throughout the discussion. And you can also use those reactions to give us a thumbs up if there's something you
that's
hear
fine.
that you're excited about. So yeah, just a little housekeeping there. And then one thing I'm curious about, John. So we don't. Maybe it's changing a little bit, but it's kind of rare to see somebody from the field just get excited about technology, go into adopting it, at your organization, and then even move deeper into the tech side, the startup side. So I'm just curious, like with your mindset, like what gets you excited about technology? Like why bother, adopting solutions like Procore and instruction site drone deploy, etc.
Man, that's a fun question. Actually, we didn't plan for this one.
Yeah.
What got me excited about it? I just like the simplification of technology and like
Mhm.
the idea that it can make your life easier, right?
Yeah.
Um, I don't think any technology was ever created in order to make something difficult, right? Go back all the way to the wheel, right? It was invented to make life easier.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain viewpoints in construction that technology is making their life more difficult. And I think that's fair, and it's good, fair pushback, right? But the intention is always to make it simpler and easier. And I think in today's world, kind of where I'd go with that is like
Mhm.
that systematic processes, built around technology are building really good data. And,
Mhm.
as we've seen through ChatGPT and different AI systems over the years, and I know people are tired about talking about AI, but AI is only going to be helpful if you have good systems and processes put in place that are collecting data. And I think that's what, you know, technology is allowing us to do. If you're writing things down on pen and paper, it's going to be a really hard jump into the AI world, right? There's a happy
Yeah.
medium to where like you need to have some sort of system and process and some sort of tech adoption. You can't still be printing out all your plans and highlighting everything on 2D paper drawings and posting our guides there, right? Like there's certain systems and things that you have to just jump into in order to kind of ride this wave of technology.
Yeah. So, I loved what you said at the start there, the simplification and then, getting to the systems piece of it. But, what I kinda sorta joke about is like, yeah, for me, my perspective was I'm one of the laziest people out there. I don't wanna sit and do a bunch of data entry. I wanna go home on time. Maybe, like, lazy isn't the right word, but efficient, right? So anything that's helping me, get out the door, get the task done at a high level of quality, that's kind of what gets me excited too,
Of
but
course, but like I
yeah.
think a lot of people in their tech adoption journey, they're so reluctant to let go of their old process
Yeah.
that it becomes data entry, right? If you're
Right.
stuck in the field and you're going out and you're collecting things on a pen and paper just to come back into the trailer to do data entry, well, there's time waste there. There's potential for error because you're not inputting it while you're seeing it. You may need to go back out and get some more clarification because something so I think technology makes our lives better because you're able to go and do that stuff from the field,
Yeah.
document it to where everyone can see it. Um, and it's a tough thing for people to let go of their old, tried and true system,
Right.
and it
Yeah.
makes it really difficult to implement because you're kind of fighting, you know.
100%. Change is hard in general,
Yeah,
and we just got a thumbs up in the chat, so I think what you're saying there is
I don't get
resonating
to
with
see
the
the
audience.
thumbs ups then.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it too here, so if you see me looking away, I'm looking at our comments and stuff, but, that takes us right into our main topic, like, what is busy work? Like, let's just talk about that. So, in construction, we have so many different processes and tasks and checklists and things that we're tracking and things that we forget to track, and yeah, there's this big thing of, like, busy work, but what is it actually for our industry?
Yeah. So, busy work kind of is up to the eye of the beholder, right?
Hmm.
It is very much specific to you. And what I mean by that is if you don't understand the why behind what you're doing,
Mhm.
any work can be seen as busy work, right? So,
Yeah, tell us more about that, like, the why behind what you're
yeah,
doing.
so, if you're doing daily log entries and you don't
Mhm.
understand why you're creating a daily log every day, you know, you see it as busy work. It's just something that your boss is telling you that you have to get done because their boss is telling you that they need to do it because risk management tells you that they need to get it done too. And so when you don't know the why behind what you're doing, you end up not doing it to the best of its ability and to where it's actually going to be useful down the line, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know the why, so you're just putting, hey, there's guys hanging sheetrock today,
Mhm.
right? But the why, you need to know how many people are there hanging sheetrock. Are they on schedule or off schedule? You know, uh, is there material there for tomorrow? There's more things around it that actually require brain power. Um, you know, that you have to like understand that why in order to be able to do the task and not seem like busy work.
Yeah, that's, really good insight. So, I'm thinking back to, maybe my earlier days in the field and things like that, and one of the really tough things that, the entire industry struggles with is finding time to train and pass down knowledge and, not just knowledge and training, but understanding of why we're doing things. And the pace of the field is just so fast usually that, you can barely get a minute to do the job, let alone explain that why to somebody who's, doing it for the first time or coming into a new role or whatever it is. And this is maybe, a little bit of a side topic, but what are your thoughts on that? Is there, a good remedy for getting that understanding of the why to people who are doing the data entry?
I mean, that's if I had an answer for that, like, I,
Yeah, million dollar answer.
yeah, it's something that's an issue in our industry,
Mhm.
and uh, I think it requires the older generations to pass down that why. It also requires you know people to ask the question why,
Ask questions. Yep.
right?
Hmm.
So it's on both sides of the equation here. The big thing from where I was, where like the technology side was trying to bridge that gap between the two, right?
Right.
You're trying to put in a system in place that can work to multiple generations, right? I think uh,
Hmm.
Alice with Formwork Labs, Brick and Mortar Ventures, Formwork Labs.
Yeah. Shout out to Alice.
Yeah, shout out Alice. Was just talking about this the other day. We're like, you've
Yeah.
got to make tools now that like speak to every generation,
Hmm.
and that they're going to be used by every generation. And like, I think that's really critical here.
Yeah.
Understanding
That
like why, right? You
that
can,
takes. Oh, go ahead.
I was
Sorry.
gonna say, like, you can put a tool in place, but like, you know, the person who's putting the tool in place needs to be able to speak to both sides,
Hmm.
and there needs to be a reason one why you're putting that tool in place, right? And then you need to tell the why on why that tool is needed.
Right. 100%. That made me think for a second there, like, I was just thinking of a basic Google search, right? Everybody knows how to do that. It's so easy. And it brings me back to ease of use and making things, intuitive and in a regular, human nature, which will eventually kind of get back to the topic of AI. But I think that's why it's so big and exciting. We're able to type in with natural language, like, hey AI, tell me, which of my stuff is overdue for this project, or summarize these meeting minutes and tell me my action items, things like that. So I think technology is going to help us bridge that gap.
Yeah, to ping off Alice some more, that's what she was saying is like, hey, everyone knows how to use Google, but some people are using AI for these questions
Hmm.
now. So
Yeah,
just because
100%.
everyone does use Google doesn't mean you shouldn't have this you know tool that the younger generation can use as well. Um,
Yeah.
and I fully believe that if like it doesn't fit every generation, it's not a tool, it's a toy, right?
Yeah.
Tools are used by everyone; they're universal, right? A hammer isn't just a tool to a 12-year-old or a 20-year-old, right? Like a hammer can be used by everybody,
Hmm.
right? A toy, may be only used by certain age groups,
Hmm.
and so like it truly has to be span the gambit there and be able to be used by everyone.
Very insightful. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited to see
that's
what
my
comes out of.
insightfulness coming out today. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm very excited to see, what comes out of more maturity of our solutions. So let's talk a little bit more. We're touching on AI here. You also talked on like systems and having structured data. Let's expand on that a little because I think that's really important to understand for a lot of organizations that are out there. Even just before we started this session, I was explaining like, yeah, I'm talking with leaders and organizations, and they're excited about AI and a lot of the solutions, and they just want to kind of throw it out there, but we have to take a step back first and look at our data. So yeah, tell us about perspective from the field. Like, so what's the benefit from documenting things in a systematic and a structured manner?
So, I think it can go even further than just documenting things in a structured manner. It's also the tool that you're using to document, right?
Okay.
So, for example, like at Andrus, we ran a really like solid document or quality control process.
Hmm.
Um, we A couple of us read a book called The Checklist Manifesto. I'm not a big fan of reading books, or I'm
Okay.
really not a fan of suggesting books, but this is one that I like actually suggest a lot.
Checklist manifesto. All right.
Manifesto, and it talks
Yeah.
about just like how checklists are used in different industries, and it actually talks about construction as one of them, even though I don't know if the author fully understood.
We do have many a checklist.
Yeah, I know, but I don't think the author fully understands construction industry, so don't quote me on this. But
As many, yeah.
I don't understand doctors and pilots, and he goes into those industries really deep.
I
About
see.
like how doctors have checklists when they're doing surgery that they open you up. One, they're like marking your knee to make sure that that's the knee that they need to cut into, and then like after they cut into it, like they're checking all these things, and they're checking these things as they're going. And like one of the last things is like, did you remove all the foreign objects before sewing them up? Right?
Hmm.
It's like, oh, let's check that off. Right? And so it's a really interesting thing that we kind of took over into our quality control program of like, hey, that's a pre-cover up protection that doctors are doing. And if you have a checklist, you're checking that every single time
Hmm.
versus maybe picking a tool like a punch list, right? Where a punch list is very much like you look for it, you write the punch list item down. It's not as systematic. Yes, you're recording data, but it's not in a true system, right? And so that's you can pick a tool that's I'm going to use punch list to go and find all the errors on my job site. But again, we talked about like passing down this information into
Hmm.
younger generations and teaching someone, right?
Right.
You're just telling them go out and find all the errors. They're going to probably miss a lot of errors because they're just trying to do this while deliveries are coming on site,
Uh-huh.
while there's an OAC meeting that they got to get back to, while the food truck just popped on site and they want to make sure they get their Topo Chico or their Monster Energy drink, right?
Probably the Monster Energy. I've seen those cans everywhere.
Austin, Texas, they might go for the Topo, but
Okay.
so like there's all these things happening, and with a punch list, it's a great tool for certain times of the job, right?
Yep.
Obviously, it wouldn't exist as a concept, but a lot of times for quality control, like when you're trying to make sure that it's a repeatable process, these
Hmm.
things like before you cover up sheetrock, a checklist is a much better thing than a punch list, right? Because you are covering it up. It's not something you can go back to later, right?
Well, you can,
Well,
but it's very
but you're
painful, it's
cutting
very
into it, yeah,
expensive, and nobody wants to do it.
and that's a very expensive change order. When you're death by paper cut of sheetrock patches,
Yeah.
which I'm sure everyone has put into their budget by now, like a sheetrock patch budget.
Yeah.
But even those get blown, right?
So I think what
So
you're getting at, or at least my thought process here is like it's preventative, right? We're getting to a preventative state, more of a predictive state. We can, have guarantees and like assurances, like okay, before we put drywall on, we know it's good to go. So
exactly. So
simple but very
that's the
powerful.
system,
Yeah.
right? You can have technological tools or like use tools and technology, right?
Hmm.
A digital punch list, but a checklist gives you a system, right? And I think this system is really important, especially as we go into this AI age, right? To where if you're not checking the same thing every single time, well, how do you know that that was the thing that failed the most often on your project, right?
Yeah.
Your eye may be trained to see that this item was a punch item, so many times, but actually you didn't catch all these other punch items. Had you done it on a checklist, you would have found that that other item was actually more, prevalent on your
Mhm.
job. It was
Yeah.
actually the thing, right? A lot of times, like construction is such a relationship based thing,
Absolutely.
and when I was in the field, a lot of times people would, everyone thinks that you're picking on them when you call them out for things, right? And
Unfortunately.
when you're backed up by data, it's not picking on them. You're
Right.
coming at them with like, hey, this is truly the thing that's holding us up, and it's but if you do it and you're the way you're collecting it isn't like a systematic way. It's truly like you could be picking on them, right? Punch lists, punch lists inherently can be, you can pick on someone. But if you're doing a checklist, it's a lot harder to pick on someone, you
Right. I
through that
think
data, right?
it gets at to a little bit, like here's the true story of what's happening on the job site, and it opens up doors for collaboration. So, it's just data. It is what it is. Let's work to solve the problem together. I do want to share a couple of the comments that are coming in, which is great. So, thank you guys for participating here. This is awesome. So we have a comment from Stephen Spry. As I ask myself, what problem am I solving each day? Absolutely, we need to have some purpose there. What issues do you solve each day? For instance, do I solve a problem, or do I do my task without knowing what problem I am solving? So yeah, that is a really good one, Stephen. I think I actually ask this a lot to leadership teams who are like, "Hey, we want to do this tech thing." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's take a step back. Like, what are you actually solving? Like, do you know why you want to solve it?" 100%. Any thoughts on that comment there, John, as well?
No, I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago with just knowing that why,
Yeah,
um, which I think is just so important.
definitely. Yeah, it all comes back to that deeper understanding and purpose. We have a couple other comments here, like specifically rounding out that checklist conversation. So, Grant, thank you for sending this in as well. Checklists are huge. Yes, we agree here, especially when they are iterated on and easily accessible slash trained on. Yeah, I have seen many a great checklist, and the project still suffers because nobody used it.
Well,
So that is a big, big deal.
this
Yeah,
is a
and
big one that he touches on, though,
yeah,
is the aviation.
aviation. Yes, they're big in aviation for a reason. Thanks,
So
Grant.
the Checklist Manifesto book touches on aviation, and the big one that I think aviation, what we can learn from there is that they eliminate as many unnecessary or repeatable, trained into things as possible, right? Like,
Hmm.
uh, I think it's interesting when you do a checklist and it has just way too much detail. Well, if it has too much detail in it, is someone actually going out there and doing it, or are they pencil whipping it, right? And if they're
Mm,
pencil whipping it, there's no point in doing the checklist in the first place, right?
right.
But in aviation, they're like, "Hey, we need to come in for an emergency landing." They cut out the whole point about needing to put your landing gear down, right? Like
Hmm.
that should be known, right? Like you're coming in for landing, landing gear should be down. It's talking about like who you need to be telling, what you need to be telling over the radio, like uh, solving for the other things, not the very basic one, right?
Yeah.
So when you do these checklists, it's how do you trim down the items in order to make sure that they're as efficient as possible, um, and
Right.
that you're, you know, I always say to be like general enough to where if something that does need to be more specific can be like looped into that one, that item.
Yeah. Effective without being burdensome.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a balance there.
it is.
And then we do have one last thought here, or another thought rather, from Grant as well about concrete, which I've seen some concrete operations myself. Checklists are huge when doing preventative measurements simply because the cost of rework is insane. Yeah, so we're not talking small dollars, we're talking like millions and millions of dollars. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a
Had
project in
heard.
Chicago that comes to mind right now.
Yeah, yeah. For concrete, just one small horror story that I've heard of. The mix design number got like transposed a number, and
Mm,
whole deck poured with the wrong mix design. And you can imagine having to chip that out, rework it, and oh my gosh, that's not a great situation. So
it's tough.
yeah.
That is really
So
tough.
thank you guys for sharing those comments. For anybody who's also newly just jumping in, I see maybe there's a couple of you. Feel free, share your thoughts with us. Any questions in that comment box. So we do want to hear from you. All right. Awesome. Any other thoughts on those topics, John?
I can go all day on checklists.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, so I do have another point, and it kind of goes into like what I'm doing with Provisional a little bit. Is when you're managing these items on checklists, it can very quickly, from if you're wanting to like understand this stuff at a company level,
Hmm.
when you're relying on the projects to make their own questions, you can very quickly cause a lot of need for a data scientist to come back in and say this item and this item are the same item, so that you can look at something on a company wide deal, right? Like
Hmm.
question of like are is the rebar in place in per plans, right? And another one is check the rebar, right? Both of those things are items that are essentially the same. So it's if you're wanting to get that good data out at a company level, to understand like how often do we fail this item before we've corrected it, right? You need to ask the same question. And so, there's some really important stuff behind, setting up success on a company, um, you know, from that side. And it starts with literally setting up those inspections.
Yeah.
Uh, So just throwing that out there because I know that's a pain point to a lot of people over time. We actually solve that now. Like as people are creating their inspections, if you're using our tool, we use AI to analyze the question that you asked and pick something from your library of questions. And we actually go a step further. And if you ask a question that's going to have it the wrong answer, right? For
Huh.
example, if you
Yeah.
ask
Tell us more. What does that mean?
So if you ask a question like, "Are there any leaks in the waterproofing?"
Hmm.
Right? The or yeah, are there any leaks in the waterproofing? No, right? Well, what if all your other questions are supposed to be yeses or passes, right? Yes, this is done. Yes, this is done. Right? And then all of a sudden you have
Hmm.
this: Is the waterproofing leaking? No. Well, that's the correct answer, but it's the wrong side, right? To where
Oh,
you're going to have
good.
these like conflicting
You'd
yes,
want a positive
no.
response, like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's not leaking.
yeah, you want positive responses. And so our system actually will go through there and analyze that question and then provide you a you know one that is optimized to make sure that you're asking to where you have all positive responses. And so it would tell you like the waterproofing is installed per specifications, right?
Yeah.
So there's that kind of side where like the field team knows that they need to go ask this question: Is the waterproofing leaking? Like it seems obvious, but from a data standpoint, when you want to have clean data in order
Hmm.
for AI to be really good in the future, you have to start, with the really basic things and controlling that stuff. Yeah, it's just a tip.
Yeah. The the inputs and the outputs matter
Yes.
a lot to enable more sophisticated tech, which enables more sophisticated automation and insights and all this good stuff. So, I mean, what I took away from that is the foundation is your data. So, care about it a little bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned a data scientist, which I just wanted to touch on briefly because I think a lot of construction companies have, data maybe on the peripherals and don't really necessarily understand the data rules that are out there potentially to kind of help with this data scrubbing. Do you want to maybe share just, a little bit about the data scientist or data analyst or whatever data role plays in construction? Because that's not
Yeah.
usually a team member that we have, right?
And I don't think they're necessarily required as a full time team member
Hmm.
unless you don't have good processes.
Mm.
Right? If you don't have good processes, and like I was just saying, your questions are all over the board. You need to piece this piece of data to this piece of data. You're going to need a data scientist to kind of clean up, and it's more. They're going to be doing more data hygiene, which a data scientist will tell you 90% of their job is data hygiene,
Okay.
right? and 10% is actually the insights. So if you can set yourself up for success, and really it's an operational side of controlling the data hygiene from the get-go, and putting these good systems in place at the start, you can save yourself the need for a data scientist. And really, most
Hmm.
off-the-shelf systems that you can just plug your data into are going to provide you, that 10%, insights. Uh,
Right. And that, that 10% is like, or whatever insights you're getting is extremely important because that gives you a little bit of an edge. Maybe it helps you be safer. And, we all want that.
exactly.
Um, on that theme as well. So, we're talking about getting that transparency, getting that understanding. Like, what's the real impact to that? Because it feels not very tangible. Like, oh yeah, we have clean data, but like, what's the actual real outcome that you see, or any examples from past projects that you've been on?
I mean, the data is, I don't know. The best thing I can say is like the data is really there to protect you down the road. Yes, you can learn from it and get better throughout your project, but it's also there to protect you down the road. But like no one likes to hear that as like a project manager or superintendent. So like what I could tell you for like that, you know, that person person
Hmm.
is that data, like if you're doing good data practices on your project, it's going to allow you to not repeat the same mistake over and over throughout your project, right? The definition of insanity is repeating the same mistake or the same thing
And the same
over and over
thing.
and expecting a different result, right?
Yeah.
So if you repeat the same mistake and you're building a 20-story building, you repeat the same mistake 20 times. That's insane.
It is insane, and it does happen all the
It
time
happens all the time.
in our industry.
But wouldn't you like to know, like, hey, by level 4, you've done this 4 times. It's a
Hmm.
100% problem across 4 floors. Even if you do it 3 out of 4 times, probably something that you want to make sure you're watching out for the next 16 levels that you have ahead of you.
Yeah.
That thing, whatever it is, maybe it's coring a hole, right? It,
Hmm.
maybe it's the inspection didn't pass, because this one thing wasn't done, right?
Right.
If that's a 1 day delay every single time, you're talking about it took you 4 days of delays to figure it out. Now you're potentially going to save yourself 3 weeks of delays,
Hmm.
because you're not going to repeat that issue over and over and over again, right? We have
Right.
to be looking for those things, and we have to be, doing stuff that's going to help us identify um, those issues that are going to be repeated.
Yeah, and I think, that's a nice, or, in my mind, I'm like, I think we could make this a really nice call to action for the industry. Like, hey, we shouldn't be repeating our mistakes, right? We have almost too much data. We almost have too much information at our hands. But if we're, being strategic about how we're structuring things and getting the right resources, we absolutely, can be one of the best, most predictable, streamlined industries. I know we say a lot of times like, oh, it's so siloed, it's disjointed, everything's custom, but no, we can improve for sure with the insights that are gathered through like these structured processes. And I also want to shout out Grant again. He's mentioning using RoboFlow to scrub data as we speak. So thanks for sharing that, Grant. And then I do want to bring up one question that's come in as well from Prajot. So he says, I often joke with my friends who are from IT or manufacturing industry that my industry, construction, is the grandpa industry when we compare it to other industries, because I've noticed many people have a rigid mindset when it comes to adopting new technology and automation. Yeah, I've seen that myself as well. There's kind of a spectrum. Maybe some are more like you, John, where they're like, yeah, I'm excited about this tech stuff. It's going to streamline, whatever it is. But there are many who are, really rooted in the traditional and standard ways that they kind of learn and have been doing for like 30 to 40 years, and it's really hard to change. But the question here, so as someone eager to bring change early in my career, yay, we love visionaries with momentum and inspiration. But what strategies have you seen work best for encouraging teams to embrace new ways of working? Great question. So, yeah, John, take it away.
I don't know if there's strategies out there so much as break the mold, right? Like challenge challenge the norm and figure out a way to do it better, right? Do it more efficiently. Maybe really great segue into like what I'm doing uh,
Yeah,
from
take
this
it away.
role. Like,
Yeah.
uh, you know, I think this is a great opportunity. So, for example, like I saw inspections as something that was like really difficult that people were manually logging into systems and
Mhm.
going into city web portals and checking inspections to see if they passed, and then going in and like highlighting the drawings to show like what's been updated or having to reference a drawing on the wall to even find that permit number in order to go over into the city portal and type it in. Maybe they're calling for the inspection and they call it in the wrong place. The whole idea with what I was trying to do is like change this old mentality of hey, Excel based in phone calls is just how we're going to always do
Mhm.
inspections, right? And the reason I think that was like the way is because the city inspection platforms are the one system that you don't get to actually pick on your job site,
Mhm.
right? You are reliant on whatever system the city or HJ that you're building in is using. And so I've essentially gone in and built a tool that works in any city or AHJ system and goes and grabs that information each night. And so it's actually becoming an even better system than the manual process we were doing before, because rather than
Yeah.
having to go and find that stuff, which is going to take you time to go through all of your permit numbers, update all the stuff into your Excel sheet, is tomorrow it's if you're doing it manually, it's obsolete, right? Something happened yesterday, or you need to see if something happened yesterday. And
Yeah.
so turning a computer onto that and taking what's a dull process and automating that process, like that's what we've got to challenge, right? I would say like one of the things that in my last role at Andrus, uh, when it came to some systems out there, and there's some people that are seen as like the old guard in the company.
Mhm.
Sometimes you have to, talk to them about, hey, you're not here for forever, and this is a legacy that you can leave, right? Help us implement this new system and provide that feedback. Really like lean into like the relationship side of the thing, right?
Yeah.
And help
Absolutely.
them realize that like, hey, without you, we don't have your knowledge and we don't have the systems that you've put in place. And rather than wait for you to go before we can find that, help them understand that like it's better for them to be there while you go and put this new system in place so they
Yeah.
can provide that value, right? Like I don't want someone to come in that doesn't know
Mhm.
how to do anything with permits and inspections and then just start using our system because I'm going to have to teach you everything, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. My takeaway from that is instead of pushing out change, like kind of blindly, we want to pull in the collaboration and pull people into getting their value. And then also, by that proximity, they'll most likely see the value and start to support it. So, yeah, instead of pushing the scary change out, you pull the change in, kind of.
Yeah, help them understand why it's going to help you and develop it within your career over, the
Yeah,
next 30, 40 years, right?
right.
They may see themselves on the way out. And the most dangerous thing is that like if you're on the way out and you're like, I don't want to change because I just don't want to have to learn something new, you know.
Yep.
Well, things happen all the time. You have to learn new things all the time, right? So
Yeah.
you just need to help them understand that like, hey, you're trying to grow in your role too, and implementing new systems, can not only like speed that up, but it can also make you, a force multiplier, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in a world with a labor shortage, who doesn't want that force multiplier on
Exactly.
the job site? I'll share as well, from some of my experiences, what I've found, no matter what role or what team or what size project you're on, if you find something or a process that's painful, that people really care about, that just kind of hurts, nobody likes it. It's just really hard and difficult. That's usually a good indicator of where it's worth spending some time and interest to change it. And, just ask people like, hey, like if we could make this better, like what would you want to see? And a very simple example from my experience, but it's like, going back to when iPads were brand new, it's like, okay, well, I want to be able to see my RFIs in the fields, like, on my tablet or device. Like, okay, hey, let's maybe learn this new, PDF thing that's on the iPad, so you don't have to lug around your set of drawings. So something as simple as like, hey, let's learn how to look at this, new digital tool can go a really long way. And yeah, just finding those pain points I've seen have been helpful. So we have a follow-up question. I think this is engaging with our audience that's here. So another one from Prajot, and apologies if I'm not pronouncing that right, but specific example here. So I will be working as an office engineer on a larger tunneling project, working mostly on change management, reviewing change requests, etc. What practical steps can I take to help convert busy work into value on projects? Yeah, so if I'm just to, spin off what I was last saying, find any small processes, and it can be really basic. Maybe it's just automating an email. Maybe it's automating a report. Start there and like, start to see what the team cares about. So there's opportunities even in the most basic of things. So that's my 2 cents. There's probably, a ton of more information as well that could probably help specifically with that scenario. But John, let's hear from you as
I
well.
mean, let's go back to where we started. It's like,
Yeah,
ask the why,
ask the why.
right?
Yeah,
Understand the why of those things that you're doing. Reviewing change requests, coordinating with field teams, you know, tracking contract clauses. Like, why are you being tasked with that? And just don't do it from a standpoint of like, why am I even doing this? Like, truly understand the why, and it'll help it not feel like busy work, right? If you understand the why, it's not busy work because you're actually adding value to the project. And you're probably going to save yourself time because if you understand what you really need to get done in that task, you're not going to have to go back later on because someone says, why didn't you put this thing in there?
hmm
You're like, oh, you never told me. It's on you because you need to ask. It's a two-way street here. Sometimes people don't understand to tell you everything that you need to know.
yeah.
And I
With
think
that,
that kind of goes back to construction, like where we said there's an issue is,
hmm
you know, people may not be telling you everything you need to know on a job site. So it's up to you to ask the things that you need to know.
be curious, ask why. I think that also ties right back in. Once you understand the why, you can start to see where you can innovate. Maybe there's an extra step. Maybe the why is like, hey, well, we need to get this piece of information. Maybe there's a better way to get that piece of information, but you need to again, like, understand what's driving that process. So,
Oh yeah, I mean,
um,
I
I
I
yeah,
I remember where I kind of started with my like innovation stuff. Like, yeah, I walked out of the
yeah.
Apple store with 47 iPads weekend two of the iPad coming out. So like
All right, early
I'm more like
adopter.
innovative, I guess,
Nice.
than like I should give myself credit for. But
Hmm.
where I think I really started getting into like you know process automation
Yeah.
was in Excel, right? And it was developing ways to take data and structure it into systems, right? So, look for things that you're doing where you're having to take something from over here and type it over here, right?
Right.
And figure, is there a way to export that and build a formula that can tie that over? If you're not using ChatGPT these days to figure out how to build formulas that do whatever you want, like you're doing it wrong. You know,
It's a powerful tool. I'll throw out there,
they're
yeah, absolutely use it. Just use it responsibly. So don't put in any private data, company data,
Yeah,
toggle
no, no,
that
no.
privacy
Hey,
button off.
when you're
Just
doing that, like,
yeah,
don't throw the Excel spreadsheet in. Just say,
yeah,
like,
don't do that.
I need to get what's in sheet 2 in cell A20.
Right, right,
I need to pull that over into sheet 1 into cell
right.
D33, right? And
Yeah,
then it'll be like, boom, here's that formula, and you just drop it over. You have to probably tweak it around a little bit.
yeah.
But I mean, I remember having to teach myself this stuff through like
Google,
Google, like
YouTube.
these are like Google questions that other people had asked their personal question. I never wanted to ask mine.
Yeah,
I'd like go look at other people's like things and then have to like break down answers to figure these Excel spreadsheets out. But like it's a really great way to start innovating, right? And you can save
absolutely.
yourself a ton of time. And it could be that like I remember, I've also done this for like peer logs. We shifted over to doing peer logs digitally through Procore inspections.
Very
But
nice.
then
Yeah.
people still needed to have that PDF peer log, right?
Yeah.
Well, I went in and figured out a way to like take that inspection data out of Procore and build it into an Excel spreadsheet. So you go and do data entry one time in the field. You have
And
this
then you're
really
done.
awesome, sleek way to do it.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, in
So
Provisual, we can highlight the drawings to show you that peer log too.
yeah, I'm going to expand on that. I do want to let our group know here. So we will be ending a little bit early-ish. I know a lot of people tend to hop off like right at the tail end of the hour to get to other meetings and things that are going on. So we will be wrapping up in 5-ish minutes or so. So if you have any last questions or comments, please do drop those in now. And then if we aren't able to get to you in the last little bit of the session, we will see your question or comment later on and can reply. So do feel free to use that comment or chat box. So Grant is also mentioning you can use Gemini and Google Sheets to help streamline that as well. 100%. A lot of little tools out there. Not
Yeah.
little, a lot of big, powerful tools out there. Okay. So, John, you mentioned Provisual, what you guys are working on. Tell us a little bit more about that, before we wrap up the session today.
Yeah, so my big deal right now is trying to save people time, manage inspections. So we're helping people by saving that time of going into the web portals and navigating that information, pulling that over, highlighting your drawings to show you that information.
Yeah.
Uh, and really, it's about saving time and spotting the things that are missing. Right?
Right.
It's amazing. Either we forget that we failed an inspection and we haven't gotten back to it because
Hmm.
the reason that we failed it for need to be some other inspection need to be done afterwards. Whatever it is, there's constant communication around inspections. And when you get into like lean construction and you learn about like visualizations and how like they can help break down and help speed up communication, it's a really great tool for that.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, if you care about saving yourself time on projects and not having to keep up with your inspections manually, let me know. Reach out. Go to provisual.com or shoot me an email at john@provisual.com. It's with a Z.
With the Z, I was just about to say, I was
Yeah,
going to say,
Provisual with a
please
Z
keep
because you have
this
to be
in
cool
mind.
with your names. Um, and yeah, if you're at Procore Groundbreak in a couple weeks or at LCI Congress, we're going to be there as well. So stop by, say hi, check out a demo. Would love to show everybody.
Yeah, fantastic. I just always chuckle to myself when you mention, yeah, we highlight the drawings because one of the first days on the job site, I walk in and in the super's office, there's just tons of colored pencils and colored highlighters. I'm like, what's going on here? This is kind of funky. But yeah, we love
We
coloring.
love colors in
We
construction.
love coloring. And if you can automate some of the coloring and make that super easy,
I
that's
think it
amazing.
probably comes from that where it's like
Yeah,
someone's like, you need to go highlight all the things that we've done so far. And it's like,
right,
what if I just made a tool that just would do it automatically after what I did in the field, right? Like,
right, right.
it's much easier to like show your progress because you did the process out in the field really well. And
Yeah,
what it comes down to, like, also is like I wanted a system just to be able to like help manage. And that's why like a lot of these colors are out there where the superintendents or the project managers are like telling you color stuff.
Mhm, mhm.
It's a management tool.
Right.
But like
100%.
if
It's
you want to get
visual data, visual
it's
data.
visual data. If you want
Yeah.
to get something done in the field and you're saying, hey, go do this checklist, well, you don't want to go back and have to make sure that they did all these checklists in this Excel spreadsheet,
Mhm.
or like an Excel based list online. You want to be able to see like, hey, this is the area we're going to go cover up with sheetrock tomorrow. In
Right.
the sub meeting, can we see that everything got done and all these items are checked? Yes. Well,
Okay.
great. Like you're probably not going to have to open up those walls, and you're going to save yourself some money on your sheet work, your sheetrock patch budget, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
So one last thought to close this out here. What I love is that, you're preserving the integrity of the why and like the process that we've been doing into the digital tool to just make it a whole lot easier. So, um,
It
uh,
goes back to what Alice said. You
yeah,
gotta meet everyone where they are.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it's a lot easier to do an incremental change, but like an incremental change that's like a massive impact, you know, is what people are looking for, right? If you can just, hey,
100%.
rather than having to highlight it manually, you go do this thing that you're already doing and it's
Yeah,
done for
and
you.
it's done for you. It's there.
Or you don't have to go onto this website to go, check these things, which maybe you're only checking once a week, but now you get this much better data source. Like it's just a, hey, go here versus there, but it's significantly better data and just saving time.
Right. So yeah, so we'll close it off here for now. Again, if we weren't able to get to you, we will see your questions and comments. I do want to say to our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. This was a really good discussion, some really good thoughts, and as well suggestions in the chat. So thank you all for participating. John, huge thank you to you for sharing your time and expertise with us. It's always extra exciting when we get, a startup founder that's from the field and quite literally started in the trenches. So you have that extra perspective on the why, right, and what we're really looking for in the field. And yeah, just a last reminder to the group. So if you want to connect with John, check him out or meet up with him at Procore Groundbreak or LCI Congress, LCI Congress. Couple great conferences out there, and or just reach out to him through his contact information that he shared a little bit earlier. So thank you all, and we will sign off until our next event.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Aaron.